Hello folks, this is Alasdair Post-Quinn, and welcome back to the Fallingblog podcast. This is episode 10, and you can find all sorts of other Fallingblox designs stuff on double-knitting.com. So, it's been a while, folks, and I wanted to first apologize a little bit for that, but also explain myself. If you've been following me on my blog at all, then maybe you've got some ideas of why. And if you haven't, then I want to give a little bit of an explanation. So without further ado, this is the Fallingblox Report. So my last podcast was in 2023, March of 2023, as a matter of fact. It's now January of 2026. A lot has happened in the world and in my life. What happened in between these two podcasts was largely that my my life changed a bit. I mean, as you are probably aware, in 2020 my house burnt down. I've been working very hard with a group of other owners of the condo building that I lived in to rebuild this building, which I am now sitting in, by the way. So we did succeed, and we did actually get to a point where I could move back in eventually. But in the meantime, I was living at the Quaker Meeting House where I attended. I still do attend to some degree. And in order to continue living there, I had to continue taking on new and more in-depth work. Shortly after the last podcast, I had to take on the position of maintenance manager there. I work with my hands in a lot of different ways. Obviously, I work in my I work in knitting, but I also am a fairly competent handyman. So I took on that position because it was needed, but because of that happening, I had to put a big pause on my knitting stuff. I just didn't have time to both do my regular full-time job and this job, the meeting house work and the knitting. There just isn't enough time in my life to do that, along with family and any semblance of social life that I have. So I put it all on pause. Things were slowing way down. My virtual workshops, as COVID became less of an issue, I hesitate to say ended. I know it hasn't really ended, but became less of an issue for a lot of people. Virtual workshops became harder and harder to market. If you're jumping straight from episode 9 to this one, you'll probably notice that I was, in March 2023, pushing a whole new slate of workshops with a new slate of prices, and let's just say that didn't work very well. The new workshops were great, but the prices were very hard to get people to pay for after I had previously been charging quite a bit less for different workshops, of course. But I tried to I tried to get paid what I felt I was worth, and in the end, that didn't pan out. So these 2 years have given me some perspective and given me some opportunities to rethink how I'm going to do things going forward. And I wanted to give you a little rundown of what that's going to look like going forward. Fallingblox Designs is going to continue existing. Perhaps it may even continue existing in a more visible way in some ways. Although there are some things that I've been doing that I just can't keep doing. I just don't have the time in my life to do it anymore. One of those things is e-commerce. I'm selling off all of my books, all of the physical books that I have, and I'm not printing more of them. What that means right now is that if you go to my website, relatively soon after this has been aired, you can get my books for quite a good discount off. The two main books, Extreme Double Knitting and Double or Nothing, were $29.95 and are now $19.95. Parallax collection is also discounted, and what few bipolar patterns, that's the last printed pattern that I have, there are also discounted somewhat. And they still come with a free PDF download. And the PDFs are going to continue to be available. It's going to be digital only once all of these physical copies are gone. The other thing that when I finally get done with my e-commerce, the e-commerce section of my website, that will have to go away is my video workshops. Those are also something that I'm selling individually, digitally, on my website. What am I going to do about that? Well, guess what, folks? I'm going to release them all for free. All of the video workshops that I have filmed so far, they actually, they're lost right now. They were up on Vimeo. Vimeo nuked my account for reasons unknown. Didn't renew my account even though it was on auto renew, and what happens when that happens is all of the videos that were stored there get erased. So that was a bit of a surprise to me, but honestly it's going in the direction that I wanted to go anyway, taking them off of the paid hosted location and put them up on YouTube for free. I really kind of wanted to keep them off of a place where they're just going to get scraped by some AI bot and whatever AI is going to do to them. I'd rather it not, but I don't have any control over that. If I want to release these for free, I have to put them out somewhere where people will be able to find them. So, why am I doing that? I just, to your eyes perhaps, I just changed the prices on these, and I just did mention just now that the prices were maybe too high for people. In this economy, in this in the way that the knitting world is right now, the prices may have been too high. And the fact is that social media has become harder and harder for me to interact with, and I just don't have the time to constantly be promoting myself. All of this is in service of me getting back to a point where I can spend more time creating new stuff. creating new patterns, innovating new techniques, the stuff that people really want from me in the end. People don't necessarily want me to, and I don't want me to, just constantly be promoting old stuff that I have. And so I really wanted to get back to basics, get back to the way things used to work, where I could design things on my own schedule and release them on my own schedule and promote them through my mailing list and whatever other means I can. I do still have a Patreon. I'm hoping that the exposure of my YouTube videos will also help raise interest in my Patreon. But we'll see, you know. It would be lovely if I could make a living at this, really. But this is an experiment that I've tried before. Any money that I get out of this is going to be a bonus at this point. So, yeah, you know, I just got a comment where someone said, "You look really done in." I'm like, yeah, you know, it sucks that that I'm experiencing some burnout in something that I love so much. And what really gives me peace of mind is being able to create new stuff for people and have whatever segment of the knitting world enjoys it, enjoy it, and not go out of my way to get it in front of lots and lots and lots more eyes. But the other thing that I really, I've got to say I've resented this for some time, is that everybody seems to be so scared of double knitting. While things like brioche are exploding, have been exploding for years. Brioche requires entirely new, and this is nothing against brioche. I love the stuff that I'm seeing. It's beautiful work. But brioche requires entirely new vocabulary and new techniques and things like that. Double knitting is just knits and purls. It shouldn't be so scary. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the barriers to entry. I'm going to release all these videos for free. I'm going to let everybody learn. I'm still going to sell my patterns. And the hope is that what's going to happen is people will learn these techniques, maybe get less scared of double knitting, and maybe that will increase sales on my patterns. I don't know what it's going to do to my live workshops. It's an experiment. But it's entirely possible that I won't be teaching as many in-person workshops because I won't be giving all of that info away for free, but there is still little replacement, well, lost my words there for a moment. Anyway, there's nothing like learning in person. I can give you individual attention. I can, you know, see your work firsthand as you're doing it. I can help you through it. And so, you know, videos will be available, but I will still be around doing live workshops as people are interested. And, you know, all of those video workshops that I said I was going to be teaching and haven't formulated yet, those I hope I will still get to formulate, and I hope I will release more of these tutorial videos, you know, long-form tutorial videos. which is really what they're going to become. As this begins, and it's going to begin pretty soon, I have to shoot some pre and post video stuff to tack on to the existing videos that I have. But these videos were originally shot as you know, live virtual workshops, and so they're not quite in the format that I want to eventually have them in. But I don't really have the time to reshoot every single one of these videos as a streamlined thing for YouTube. But perhaps over time I will. I'll replace them with things that I feel better about the presentation of. But for right now, I've got all of this teaching content. I promised all the people who bought into those videos access to them for life, and this is going to actually do that. You know, without me having to host them, I can just put them out there for free. The people who paid for them, thank you so much for doing that in that time. We'll get them for free, but so will everybody else. And I hope that that won't rub too many people who did pay for them the wrong way. Please know that I wouldn't have gotten this far if I hadn't had people paying for those workshops. If I hadn't had the opportunity to imagine a world where I might be able to do this full time. But I really just have to disconnect my my metrics of success from the amount of money that it makes. You know, the amount of money that it makes is not necessarily the only metric for success. So yeah, that's where things are going, and you know, this is totally unscripted. This is totally just me off the cuff here, and I just wanted to let folks know that this is where things are going, and I really hope that in the near future I can get this all squared away. But also in the near future, I can get my books sold. You know, I've still got a few hundred copies of each of my books, fewer than 100 copies of my Parallax Collections booklet, and I really just need to get those out of the way. And as that happens, the videos will also come out. And you know, I'm still going to be offering, you know, I'm still going to have the Patreon available. I have a Ko-fi page, Ko-fi, Ko-fi, you know, a little way for people to tip me, a little tip jar. But I just need, you know, a lower maintenance website where I don't have to be constantly working on, you know, the e-commerce side of things and all of the security, and I get just unbelievable numbers of scam orders. I don't even know what how they benefit from that, that I have to be, you know, guarding against, and it's just exhausting. So, you know, the hope is that that there will be people willing to say, hey, I love what you're doing. I want to throw some money at that so that you will continue being able to do it. And I mean, YouTube over time may monetize as well. You know, my channel is not monetized right now. It's possible that with increased viewership, it may. That would be great. But we'll have to see. Like I said, it's all an experiment. But you know, I've been digging in so deep on the you know, trying to make money and trying to go toward the the possibility of making this a full-time job. But the reality of that is that the knitting business and the knitting are not the same job, and I don't have time to do both. So I need to minimize the knitting business so that I can get back to the knitting and do the stuff that people really want me to do, and like I said, that I want to do. So this podcast isn't going to have quite the same format as previous. We're gonna do a little bit of a couple of the other sections. So, you know, what's on my needles is next. Since I've been alluding to the stuff that I want to create, I figure I might as well show you what I'm working on. I want to show you something that I designed a while ago. One of the first things that I'm doing here is I'm going back to patterns that I designed a while ago and never released. That's the easiest thing for me to do, is to say, hey, this is something that I really would have liked to release, just never got around to it. This is one of those things. This is, it doesn't have a name at the moment. I think of them as Rave gloves. Yeah, here's a bit of history for you. I'm almost 50 years old, by the way, but you can't tell from my hair. Back in the 90s, and yes, continuing into today, I've been a raver for a long time. For those of you who don't know what that is, I go out to parties and dance for hours and hours on end to electronic music that probably a lot of you wouldn't enjoy, but I grew up with it, and so, you know, one of the things that I always wanted to do is make some rave clothing. These are, you know, rave gloves. These are actually, I'll put it on. This is a very long one, but you can see really kind of neat cable work here, but the colors are actually neons, meaning that this glows under black light, which is really the reason that I did it in some ways. Unfortunately, this yarn went out of production in the meantime while I was working on other things, and I never actually got to release this. And now that I am thinking about releasing it, I obviously had to find new yarn for it. This, you know, very long. Probably the actual piece is not going to be quite this long, but I want to show you where it's going right now. Like I say, it's on my needles. This yarn is kind of stuck in the needles right now. There we go. Is where it's going right now. Now you can see that the cable pattern isn't going as high as the previous one. And the reason for that is that this part actually goes on your hand and is wider because it's on your hand. And here's the thumb hole right here. I'm not going to put this on because it's actually pretty hard to do with the needle still in. It naturally narrows because of the cabling to something close to your wrist size. I don't actually have to do any sizing to make that happen. It just, the cables pull in, and so you get a hand section and a wrist section, which is really kind of neat. And the reason that I never released this is because it's next to impossible to chart. The way these cables move is really unusual. They start off with 1x1 cables moving in one direction, and then we get 1x2 cables going in the other direction. So we get this less pronounced slant and a more pronounced slant. And the more pronounced slant goes back in the opposite direction from the way you're knitting. Yes, I could probably have done it in the other direction, but honestly, it's not a significant difference, and in some ways it's actually easier to do it this way. The jog moves along with the cables. As you continue this, the jog rotates around the piece, and the way the chart interacts with that is really, really strange. But I figured it out last night, as a matter of fact. I finally got it to a point where I think it's actually readable as a chart, followable as a chart. It's going to require some new new concepts around charting, but it's the story of my life. I find that charting frequently isn't, what's standard for charting frequently isn't enough for what I do, and so I have to come up with new ways of doing things. I borrow as much as I can from standard knitting techniques and charts, but there are just some things that I cannot find any other people doing, and so I have to come up with my own solutions for how to notate things. So these are going to come out at some point in the not too distant future. They're a relatively quick thing to do, and especially now that I've got the charting done, I should be able to get through this pretty quickly, and it's not going to be that like opera glove length that the previous one was. For those of you who are curious about the yarn, I was really excited to find this when I went and taught some workshops for the Green Mountain Knitting Guild up in White River Junction, Vermont, last fall. And there's a fiber mill in White River Junction called the Junction Fiber Mill. And here's a little, I don't know if you can see this, there you go, maybe sort of. Making tracks light. This is a non-superwash wool, and let me just show you again. That's a neon. That's really bright green, and actually is a very subtle subtle gradient. It's starting off with a yellowish green, and it's going to another more greeny green, but they're both neons. So I was able to get something that was non-superwash, which I love, and the right weight, and neon. So I was excited to find that, and it got me thinking, let's rework these gloves again. So that's what I'm doing, and I don't know exactly when they're coming out, but they are going to have to go through a test knitting process. A lot of my stuff I don't necessarily bother with test knitters for, because it doesn't require a whole lot of new technique work, but this is going to require some test knitting. So I'm going to be getting in touch with my test knitter list pretty soon, now that enough of the pattern is created for me to release it to them. And we'll see whether it's ingestible, so to speak. Oops, a little extra. All right, that's gone away. I got one other thing that I want to show, and this is my pattern focus segment. This is a new pattern that just came out, and if you've been following me, then you'll be able to, you will have already seen it, but I'm going to show you here, and I'm also going to show you I'm going to talk a little bit about what went into the creation of this piece. So first of all, I want to show the piece, or whatever of it you can see here. This is called Phoenix, and as a matter of fact, you probably noticed it was in the background of the previous little picture item that was here. So which direction is that? that thing right there, yeah. But that's Parallax 2.0 behind there. But in the previous one, you may have noticed that it was this piece. This piece is now finished after 5 years, and as you can see, it's in county, and it's this lovely flame gradient with a charcoal. So it's a solid charcoal and this flame gradient. So these yarns are really special to me, and the reason for that is that as I mentioned before, and as you've probably heard, my house burned down in 2020, and all of my yarn went with it. This was the first yarn that somebody gifted me. Mere days after I announced the fire, somebody said, "I've got a couple of balls of county that I would like to gift you," and this is what came out of it. The story of this thing is that it's an overshot woven pattern, obviously. Obviously, for anyone who's familiar with overshot weaving, it's not actually made in overshot weaving. It's just a pattern that is modeled after an overshot woven piece. And the overshot woven piece it's modeled after is a blanket from my childhood, which was in storage when the fire happened. And so I still have that piece, that blanket. And so this is a little piece of nostalgia stitched into the first yarn that I was given after the fire, in fire colors. So this is Phoenix, because it's a pattern that I wanted to symbolically help me rise from the ashes. So this is the first pattern that I released after I moved into the new place. I wanted it to be the first pattern that I released after I moved into the new place. I did release a bunch of other patterns while I was in my interim location, but this piece was the first thing that I released from the new home, from my new home. So this was an unbelievable amount of yarn chicken. The amount of yarn that was left over from these 2 balls was quite frightening, quite frighteningly small. But I did make it. I do have another version of this, which has 1 fewer repeat, which is offered as an option in the pattern for people that don't relish the idea of playing yarn chicken. So yeah, this is Phoenix. The link is in the YouTube thing below, and it's also, of course, available on my website. So if you're interested in this pattern, go fetch it. Somebody mentioned in the chat, this pattern reminds me a lot of Victorian raffia, and of course, in terms of the yarn, yes, it is the same yarn. In terms of the design, it's much less complicated. This is technically an intro level pattern. The Phoenix is just a chart. It's just just charts to follow, no increases, no decreases, no weird techniques. Yes, it's in fine gauge yarn. It's a sport weight, but or fingering weight, depending on how you work it, I guess. But one way or the other, the only thing it really has in common with Victorian raffia is the yarn itself. But since somebody mentioned Victorian raffia, I figure I should probably also append something new here. So Victorian raffia has has a story, and the story essentially is that it was something that I was doing in order to get better at increasing and decreasing in double knitting as an exercise. And I changed the pattern that it came from, which was a pattern by Kieran Foley, enough that I felt that it became sort of its own pattern. And I wrote to Kieran early on in my knitting career, and I said, "This is something that I'd really like to release as my own pattern. Would you allow me to do it?" And he said no. And I think he probably said no because, you know, I was a relatively unknown designer at that point. But after my book came out, my first book came out, I did get an unsolicited message from him eventually that said, "Yeah, okay, let's do a joint pattern." It's been 10 years-ish since I released that pattern, and every quarter I have to tally up all of the sales and send Kieran a certain percentage of them. And that's just gotten exhausting. And I'm frequently late, and he frequently is, has his representative badger me about it, and that's fine. But I just got tired of dealing with that. And after 10 years, its sales numbers have really sort of gone down. And so I wrote to Kieran and I said, "You know what, let's redo this agreement. I'm going to give you back the pattern. You can sell it on your own site. You can keep all of the profits. I will keep rights to the physical version. And when I sell the physical version at shows, I will keep all of the proceeds from that." So he keeps all the digital proceeds, I keep all the physical proceeds. Well, if you remember what I just said earlier on in this podcast, I'm not going to be selling physical stuff anymore. So Victorian raffia is not mine. It's no longer my pattern. I gave it back to Kieran, and now it's his. Any sales that happen of it are going straight to him, and that's that. But I still have the original version, the original physical piece. I will never make any more money from it, so I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell the original Victorian raffia. It'll be one of the last things that I put up new on my e-commerce site. There will be one. The person who brought up the Victorian raffia in the chat says, "I'm sorry I brought it up." Don't be sorry. I needed to announce this anyway. This is this is another thing that's changing in my whole knitting life. I loved that pattern. I still love that pattern. It's an amazing piece. It has brought me a lot of I feel like it's brought me a lot of customers, and it's a very visible piece. But now it's time for me to let it go. I no longer have use for the actual physical scarf. I could wear it, I suppose, but I figure I'm going to give something a try. I'm going to try to sell an actual piece. I'm going to sell one of my finished objects. It's going to come in a nice box for display purposes, or you can wear it. But it'll come with a certificate of authenticity that says, this is the original Victorian raffia, knit by me, and the value it has is from that. It's not going to be cheap, and the likelihood is that nobody's going to be willing to pay for it, and so I'll keep it. But it's worth a shot, I can't. I'm not going to be making any more money from that pattern, so I may as well try to make some money from the piece itself. And some lucky and probably affluent person will get to wear it with pride. So unless it's me, in which case I'm not affluent, but I'll still wear it. In any case, I thank you for watching this completely unannounced episode 10 of the Fallingblog podcast. This may or may not be the last one. I don't really know. You know, it's been a couple of years. Like I said earlier, I'm getting off of social media as much as I possibly can. And I'm going to have to get my work in front of people in other ways. And YouTube streaming may very well be one of those ways. So, you know, stay tuned. Get on my mailing list if you're not already there. You know, if you're not already on my Facebook page, don't bother. It's not going to get a lot more posting. I did get a Blue Sky account, but again, I just don't have the energy to be constantly posting stuff on social media. I'm going back to the old-fashioned ways, and emailing people, announcing to my Patreon. Of course, Patreon subscribers will still get free copies of every pattern that comes out. Yeah, you know, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just changing the nature of what I'm doing. And, you know, I'm going to be releasing more patterns. I've got some really fascinating things coming up that I can't wait to show you. Some stuff that's going to honestly turn, I think, certain elements of knitting, even in single layer knitting, on their ear. Some stuff that I don't think anyone else is doing, even in single layer work. And I'm of course making it reversible because that's what I do. But yeah, I'm really excited to show you this stuff in the future, and I'm really excited to be done with some of these big time sucks that have been taking away a lot of my time over the past decade or so, that will allow me to do more of this stuff for everybody. So yeah, like I said, stay tuned. Follow this channel. There's going to be a lot more coming soon. Not necessarily podcasts, but, you know, all of those video workshops are going to get released right here on YouTube. If you want to help support me, please do join my Patreon. There's a link to that down below. And also my Ko-fi page, that's not in there right now, but I will add it shortly after I finish with this video. So that's like a, you know, one-time tip jar rather than a regular infusion of money every month sort of thing. So yeah, thanks again for watching. You know, I've loved doing all of this stuff for everybody, and I will continue doing it. It's just going to look a little bit different. So, like I said, stay tuned, stay adventurous, and keep knitting. This is Alasdair Post-Quinn for Fallingblox Designs. Good night, and Happy New Year.